Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the latest update on the Cornwall and Isles of Scilly Local Skills Improvement Plan. And we're now into the delivery phase of this important project. What I'm going to do is just introduce the people that you can see on your screen. So we have Tom Moran from Truro and Penwith College. We have Melanie Collins from Department for Education. Welcome. We have Stacey Sleeman from Cornwall Council, and we also have Kathy Kessel from Cornwall Council. I'm Anne van der Meulen. I'm the Development Manager for the Federation of Small Businesses in Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly, and I'm also the lead for the LSIP project in the county. What I'm going to do is share a few slides with you. We're going to talk about a few updates, and hopefully within an hour's time you'll be fully briefed on what we're going to be doing for you next. So I'm just going to share my screen to just go into the agenda so that you can see what we're actually going to be doing this afternoon, and I'll give you a little bit of an overview of what you can expect. Let me just get this to go forward. Okay, so our agenda this afternoon, basically we're going to put a bit of context. We're going to remind you about where the LSIP fits, how it's looking at the moment. We're going to have a recap on what we've done, where we are so far, and maybe a little look at those actionable priorities, which are the important parts of the deliverable on the LSIP. We're also going to look at future plans, so actually how we're going to deliver all of this, who we're going to work with, and how all that's going to go. And then we're going to talk about the Local Skills Improvement Fund. We're going to talk about Cornwall Opportunities. We're going to have a lovely demonstration of the new website, Cornwall Opportunities, which we hope you'll all get behind and help to populate and also to share and to tell people about. We're going to talk about the all-important roadmap as well, just to tell people about how the each individual step about what we're going to do, and we're also going to tell you about how you can get involved. So without further ado, the Local Skills Improvement Plan in context, it was, as you probably all know, has been instigated, funded and is overseen by the Department for Education, and we're very pleased to have Melanie here to enlighten us on that a little bit later on. As you can see, it's an important piece of work which we're very pleased to be part of. It's been driven by the evidence needs of Cornwall and Isles of Scilly businesses. That's the most important bit, getting those people around the table, as you can see those smiling faces in the picture. It's also been informed by local strategic priorities, such as those laid out in the Local Industrial Strategy, Vision 2030, 10 Opportunities, Good Growth Investment Plan, and some really excellent work that's been done by the Council and the Local Enterprise Partnership on pulling those strategies together. We've also looked at statistics from ONS, which you might be familiar with, Lightcast. We've looked at curriculum mapping, gap analysis. We're taking ongoing business engagement and other sources which are used really to make sure that these improvements will be measured and meaningful. There's no point in doing this if there's not going to be an outcome that we can measure. So what about that bigger picture? What's the context? I'm going to introduce Stacey and from Cornwall Council and Melanie from Department for Education to tell us a little bit about where all of this fits. So I'm going to hand over to Stacey first. I'm going to stop sharing my screen because I know Stacey's going to talk to camera on this, and then we'll hand over to Melanie after that. So welcome, Stacey. We're very pleased to hear from the Council, and thank you for all the support that you give to this project as well. And please go ahead and tell us what your thoughts are.
Okay, thanks, Anne. So I'm Stacey Sleeman. I'm from Cornwall Council and lead the Employment and Skills team. So we focus on understanding the labour market, working with schools, colleges, employers to then plan for and hopefully get investment for skills provision now and into the future. So to put the LSIP in the context of the work that we do within the local authority, we've got quite tried and tested methodology in terms of working with our Employment and Skills Board, which feeds into the Local Enterprise Partnership. Those roles and responsibilities will soon be transferred to Cornwall Council as part of our LEP integration and the devolution deal that we signed just before Christmas. And that's very much understanding employer voice for the whole of the labour market and the whole of skills. So the local skills improvement plan is a really integral part of the jigsaw that we piece together within my team, within the local authority, on behalf of residents, businesses, colleges, etc., across Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly. So what the LSIP did for us was enable us to continue quite a lot of the work that we had done through something called the Skills Advisory Panel process and our Employment and Skills Board, so another DFE funded programme of work, which enabled us to develop an overarching labour market and skills strategy. And that set 4 very key aims for us in the local authority and across our partners around ensuring that we thrive, we create opportunities for all. We look at innovation, and innovation is around understanding those up and coming sectors, those new sectors such as floating offshore wind or space or agritech, all of those exciting new industries and technologies that we need to work with and develop skills for. Transformation, so making sure that where we have really important foundation sectors such as health and social care or construction and manufacturing, that we can work with those organisations to enable us to develop skills that will help them transform their businesses into modern working organisations and so forth. And a really important part of our strategy is inspire. So how can we create pathways and give careers advice and guidance to those young people and actually any age people? Kathy will come on to Cornwall opportunities later, so that we can make sure that people know about the opportunities in Cornwall. So that was a really important piece of work. And then what we committed to do within the local authority is to enhance that overarching local skills and labour market strategy by doing deep dives into significant sectors. So we did a deep dive around digital skills and one around green skills. And actually then the LSIP came along and enabled us to work with you to do a bit of a deeper dive into construction and manufacturing and then look at those cross-cutting themes in a wider context. So it's really positive. It's enabled us to kind of piece all of that wider landscape together. Been amazingly positive to be able to translate the research that we kicked off and you've carried on working with our colleges to draw down local skills improvement fund and strategic development funding. So we've got some fantastic assets that we've built, the colleges have built on our behalf. They've had the grunt of that, and really responding to that data and the need going forward. So from us, it's really exciting. We can look forward to then carrying on doing deep dives and looking at those actionable priorities with you going forward. And in particular, working through the next stages as we move from LEP integration and set up our new version of the Employment and Skills Board within the local authority, how we can work with you as the employer representative body to ensure that the LSIP is built into that wider landscape of governance around skills in Cornwall. So I think that's probably enough from me at the moment, but of course do come back to me with some more questions. I need to leave in a minute, unfortunately, to go to a local government association meeting, but there's other colleagues in my team on the call so they can pick up questions if needs be.
Brilliant. Thank you, Stacey. That's a really concise and a really great overview, actually, of a very complicated landscape. So thank you very much for that. And thanks for taking the time to join us. So that's really good of you. I'd like to introduce Melanie Collins now from Department for Education. Welcome, Melanie. It's good to see you here. And I know that you're going to give us a little bit more of an overview of how things sit on a national perspective and how important this is on a UK-wide basis. So I'm going to share some slides for you now, and if you want to do the old next slide please thing whenever you're ready, we'll do there we go.
Thanks, Anne, and thank you for inviting me along. I always think that I get the most from speaking directly to the ERBs and hearing about what they've been doing. It makes a lot more sense than when I look at it nationally. So I'm Melanie Collins. I'm the head of the Local Skills Improvement Plans and the Local Skills Improvement Fund in the DFE. And please could you click to the next slide? Thank you. So LSIPs, what are they about? I think you probably have already understood from what you've been told that this kind of central part of this programme is about putting employers at the heart of local skills systems. We talk about the fact that LSIPs are a process as much as they are a plan. So they're there to facilitate more direct and dynamic working arrangements between employers and FE providers to eventually ensure that provision better matches the employer skills needs. But ultimately, we're here for learners. So the aim of the programme is to enable learners to gain the skills that they need to get good jobs and increase their prospects. So it started in autumn 2022, and since then, across the country, ERBs have engaged thousands of local businesses about their local skills needs and helped them to forge new and dynamic relationships with local providers and stakeholders. And because LSIPs are employer-led and locally owned, we think that they're uniquely placed to set out the key changes that are needed in a local area to help make technical education and training more responsive to local employer and labour market needs. But most importantly, the thing that's really different with LSIPs to what we've done before is that they have this statutory footing through the Skills and Post-16 Education Act in 2022. So where are we now? In August this year, last year, just gone, all 38 areas of the country published their LSIPs. So the ERBs are now very much in the stage of kind of delivering the priorities that are set out. Next slide, please. Thank you. So what are we finding so far? The plans contain so much information, and even within that, we said that the plans themselves needed to be limited to 30 pages to make them usable. Many of them have quite lengthy annexes as well, but I think even within that, you're kind of missing the breadth of engagement that has happened in the past year. But they do set out what employers have told ERBs about their skills needs and the type of changes that areas need to be able to meet those needs. So we've used a range of methods to try and analyse what all 38 of those lengthy LSIPs are telling us. And I think the most important thing that I try to get across over and over again is that we never intended LSIPs to kind of set out like I guess like a data analysis of everything that's needed. So you absolutely cannot put together all 38 LSIPs and get like a national picture of everything that's needed. It's far more about articulating what employer needs look like at a local level and what those priorities are. So it might be that in some areas, actually there's an entire sector that's really, really important to the local economy, but the skills needs in that area are already quite well met. So we wouldn't expect the ERB to kind of go into depth about what's needed in that area. So if you see an ERB for any given area and you read its LSIP and you think, that doesn't match what I thought was important in this area, just, I guess, keep in mind that it's about priorities and kind of actionable targets. So the sectors that have come up across the 38 LSIPs are probably what you would expect largely. So manufacturing and engineering is kind of in many of the LSIPs, and construction, also health and social care and digital. And then education comes up in a few. And I think it's interesting the way in which different ERBs have approached education as a priority, talking about kind of the sectoral challenges as well as the kind of training needs. And then every ERB, I think, has also identified a number of transferable skills. So they talk about ICT skills, leadership skills, adaptability skills. And I think it's interesting seeing the way in which ERBs is telling us that businesses say that they need both those kind of sector-specific skills, but also the soft skills. Next slide, please. So where are we now? We're in stage 2, which runs from August just gone through to March next year. And this is the kind of delivery stage. So the aim here is to embed the LSIP process into the local skills system. So they'll carry on working with local employers and deliver the things that are set out in the roadmap, which I think Anne is going to talk through for Cornwall and Isles of Scilly in a bit. They do need to regularly review the LSIP. So we are expecting that we'll get an annual progress report in June this year and June next year. And then after March 2025, we'll move into refreshing each of the LSIPs. And at that point, we've committed to reviewing the LSIP geographies to see if any need to be revised following devolution. And then I won't go through the different roles of the key stakeholders. I'm happy to share these slides separately and it's being recorded. But I think the most important thing to get from this bit on the right-hand side is that LSIP is kind of at its heart about people and different ways of working with each other. So there's a real range of different stakeholders that have a role in this programme. And what we're seeing that's working really well is that those people are working effectively together and kind of focusing on the system change that this programme needs to galvanise. Next slide, please. So I'll do a quick run through of LSIP. So LSIP is one of the main tools that we have to help providers respond to the priorities in their LSIP, but by no means the only tool. We absolutely expect that providers will use a whole range of different programs to respond to LSIP priorities. So that might include apprenticeships, skills bootcamps and T-levels. But LSIP is specific funding, so it's a blend of capital and revenue for providers to develop new programs, training courses to respond to LSIP priorities. So we piloted it in 2021 and then we rolled it out across England in 22-23. And then LSIP is the kind of point in time at which the LSIP priorities were available. So you can have that really clear link between the funding and the LSIP. It was 165 million overall, so that's 80 million pounds in this financial year and 85 million pounds next financial year. And through that, at least 2.5 million pounds was available to each area. Some areas were able to apply for more, reflecting working age population and attainment and productivity levels. And so it's for new facilities and equipment. It can be used for developing and delivering new courses and curriculum and supporting excellence in college leadership, governance and teaching. And it's focused on level 3 to 5. I think that might have been my last slide.
Fabulous. Yes, I think it is. Thank you, Melanie. That's a really great overview. And I think it's really helpful for everyone to see the context in which this sits. I think we tend to, certainly in Cornwall, we tend to look at what's going on in our area. But looking outside and knowing that there are, you know, sort of other areas in the country that are doing exactly the same as us, we found both a lot of similarities and a lot of differences as well. So it's been quite interesting, and it's also been very interesting for us as an ERB to be able to work alongside other ERBs across the country doing the same thing as us to discuss how we take things forward and to share ideas and best practice. So we're very grateful to Department for Education for facilitating all of that for us. So thank you, Melanie. Really helpful. I think it probably helps us now, and you can see some contact details there actually. And to say these slides will be shared, so you'll be able to get in touch with DFE as well if you want to. The next step, I think we should just recap a little bit on what the Cornwall and Isles of Scilly LSIP. You'll see those weird acronyms: CIOS, LSIP, and so it's the shortest way to actually to put that down. So if you see that on anything, you'll know that's us. So the Cornwall and Isles of Scilly's local skills improvement plan. We basically looked at a huge amount of research, extensive research, analysis of data, and we had a real collaborative approach. So our report and our roadmap for change was developed. We had events and focus groups, and you can see we had quite a range of different sets of people. We also included students in those talks as well, because we felt that the kind of the end user was not only the business but also the student that was coming out of the other end of the sausage machine, if you like, and was going into employment. So we wanted to include all those people. But as you can see there, the numbers look fairly low, and actually one of the challenges that we found was actually getting people to come to things, because they're all really busy. And certainly the sectors that we were looking at, so manufacturing, engineering, marine and construction and retrofit, were certainly difficult ones because they're very hands-on jobs for people to do. So we did 250 telephone interviews, 25 in-depth survey responses. So we had 323 employer engagements in total, and including everybody, about 460. But that didn't include all of the ad hoc events and so on that we went out to ourselves. We didn't just run our own events. We were very smart and capitalized on going out to a lot of other people's events. And we went to where businesses gather together, because as I said, it's very difficult to get people to come out to individual events. So we did extremely well in getting in touch with people. And I think everybody really had an opportunity to have their say. So as I mentioned, we had two sector groups: manufacturing, engineering and marine, and construction and retrofit. And they were considered by our Cornwall and Isles of Scilly steering group, that we decided that we should that those were the areas that we should focus on, because the LSIP guidance was actually focus on what you really need to look at to make sure that your county is going to be going forward, not just some of the things that we were just thinking of, you know, that people might traditionally think of: hospitality, tourism, healthcare and so on in Cornwall, but those under our local industrial strategy and so on were more about excuse me, were more about things like workforce, availability, as opposed to actually the skills that were involved. So we went for those 2 sector groups. We also looked at some cross-cutting themes that Melanie also mentioned there. So digital, obviously a big one, and that fits into all sorts of sectors. So everybody is covered by digital, and everybody needs to have some kind of digital, whether you're a builder or a boat builder, or whether you work in hospitality or care or whatever. Everybody needs to have some kind of digital ability. So that was a very keen thing. So actually this LSIP, whilst we looked at 2 very specific sectors or sector groups, actually this is an LSIP for everybody, because we do dip into an awful lot of cross-cutting themes. Similarly with net zero and green, we all know that we really need to deal with that, and we really need to tackle that in every way we can. And Melanie also touched on that employability skills, those socioeconomic issues that, you know, a lot of those things that we have in Cornwall about how people get to work, how they feel about work, you know, where they live actually has a knock-on effect to how they feel and how they act when they go to work, and those sorts of things. So we wanted to take a look into that. And of course, the local skills system itself. You know, we have some excellent colleges here. We have a really, really good base, but we wanted to look and see how people engage with that as well. And, you know, are they aware of actually some of the wonderful things that we do have? So we think that our document, which you can find on our website, and I'm sure you'll have seen the links to that, and I'll provide links to that later on, but we have provided a really representative and coherent employer view of the skills that are most needed to take forward that local economic growth. We need to boost productivity everywhere. We need to improve that employability, and we also need to improve progression, because it's not just about the businesses, it is about everybody who lives in Cornwall, and we do want to make sure that everybody has a good opportunity to progress forward, and even if you're in a job, an opportunity to actually progress forward and to do more things. We also set up some actionable priorities, so that we can make sure that it's kind of a shopping list, if you like, really, a bit of a list of things that we want everybody to do in order to make things better. So from the research, we've taken what the businesses want, what the employees, employers, the students want, and actually try to pull it all together to say, well, actually, what will make these things better? We needed to make these actionable priorities realistic. There was no point in sort of saying, well, we'd like to send everyone to the moon, because we're not going to be able to do that. So we needed to make them realistic. But we also need to be able to look at how we take these forward, and also now through the process of this year and leading up to March of next year, and actually how we manage to keep looking and making sure that those changes that we're making, what other changes do we need to make on top of that? How is it going? We need to have a progress report, you know, every so often. There's no point in getting to March 2025 and then looking back and thinking, did we do it? We need to make sure that we're continually, it's a continual process. So moving on and talking about those actionable priorities, there were 3 really, really key things that we needed to, you know, it was attitude and it was aptitude. That people, we really need, every business just wanted competent, reliable people that would fit into the business. That was the number one thing, which didn't surprise us at all in the research, but it was the number one thing that every single business said for us. Communication, there's a need to make sure that we have good training locally, but also to make sure that businesses know about it. That was another thing that we found out. There are some great courses out there. Do businesses know about them? Sometimes they don't. So actually, I think that's really important. And that was a communication part, was a really important thread that ran through our actionable priorities also. Suitability. It's also important that, you know, the courses or the training is provided at a suitable place, suitable time, and also it's in a suitable level of cost. If you can't afford it, then there's no point in putting it on. So it needs to be very suitable and fitting to fit with the day-to-day work life. And the content also needs to be able to keep ahead of innovation. They need to be teaching things that are coming. Particularly, we found that in things like digital and manufacturing technologies, where there are lots of new innovations coming in. There's things like AI and all sorts of different machinery and stuff that's coming in. And we need to be teaching ahead of time so that we can get the people into the workforce to make them useful. And of course, it needs to be relevant to the workplace. So we talk to a lot of construction businesses about actually you could teach somebody to lay bricks in a nice sterile environment in a college, say, but actually, is that going to translate to them going out to work on a building site? So there's some really good innovations there with virtual reality technology that I had a go at and nearly got run over by a truck virtually on a building site, but all really great stuff. And so we need to make sure that businesses are engaging with that as well. So there are 63 actionable priorities. You'll be very relieved to know I'm not going to go through all of them, but I'm just going to give you 3 examples. Now you can catch up with all of the actionable priorities, as I said, that's in the document that you can download from our website. But just 3 examples. So from the manufacturing, engineering and marine, we want to develop collaborative work between colleges, employers and other strategic stakeholders to offer new or extended placements for all courses, especially those where placements are not mandatory, and to agree a process with employers. This was a bit of feedback we actually had from the colleges and from training providers, in that with the best will in the world, they can, put on courses and all that sort of stuff. But unless you get some placements, unless they get that real world business experience, it's very difficult to be able to provide that, because businesses need to come forward to be able to help them out. So it wasn't, it's not, we can't sort of lay any all criticisms at everybody's individual doors. It needs to be the fact that we work together. So businesses do need to step up and do need to offer these placements. We know there are issues with that, possibly around insurance, possibly around having people, in the workplace, which you wouldn't normally have. So there's a lot to untangle in that particular priority, but it is a very important one in order to achieve some success. It works also with construction and retrofit as well. But in construction and retrofit, they also wanted to develop and promote a mechanism for those companies to work with providers to deliver relevant aspects of training at designated specialist facilities across Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly. So that probably necessitates getting some good kit in there. That necessitates being able to offer a JCB driving course somewhere locally, rather than sending them up to Oxfordshire or somewhere to have to go and do that. So that was about developing very specific skills and having some very specific if you like, spend on getting some new kit in there. And I know that Tom will talk a little bit about that under the LSIP coming up. And also the local skills system. One of the biggest criticisms, obviously, was that these employability skills, somebody needs to be able to answer the telephone. They need to be able to talk to the customers. Even if you're working on a building site, you need to be able to talk to your clients if they happen to come on site. There's all sorts of employability skills which are really, really important. And where we found it is being looked at, not necessarily with the credence perhaps that it should be. So we wanted a greater evidence to be put onto that in the local skills system. And again, that's very clear in one of our actionable priorities. So I'm going to move on, and I mentioned the Local Skills Improvement Fund, which I'm going to invite Tom along to speak about in just a moment. And also following that, then I'm going to get Kathy Kessel from the council to do a little demonstration on the Cornwall Opportunities website, which is, and both of these things, so the Improvement Fund and the Opportunities website, are both things that are listed within the actionable priorities. And there's a lot of stuff that's being unpicked with those actionable priorities that are actually already being achieved now, which is a pretty good achievement, seeing as we're just in January. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Tom so that you can talk to us a little bit about some of that stuff, really excellent stuff that's going on with the LSIP. So Tom, if you want to tell me to move on a slide, and I'll hand over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Anne. So yeah, my name's Tom Moran. I'm the partnership manager for Truro and Penrith College, and I'm pleased to be joined by colleagues of the Cornwall College Group and Cornwall Marine Network, who form part of the LSIP agenda today. And I think it's important to reflect on the point that Mel mentioned around, that we have tried this before, through the Skills Development Fund and the Building Sustainable Futures for Cornwall, all which gave us some real opportunity to be able to explore what the world of Cornwall requires, and to be able to respond to some of that. And we, with some bumps in the road, I think we achieved an amazing outcome. Not just investment into capital investment into facilities, but also to be able to take a real strong appraisal of provision across Cornwall and work collaboratively with colleges and independent training providers to remove duplication, but also to ensure that it will, that the provision is future fit and accessible. So this is, in a sense, for us, this is a really good opportunity for us to be able to take some of that learning that we were able to gain and now move this forwards into the next stage with LSIP. So, Anne, if you won't mind, next slide. So I've mentioned before there's three main providers helping to deliver this, and I think the key thing this time around is that we were able to onboard an independent training provider who comes as part of the partners, and that being Cornwall Marine Network. But collaboratively and collectively, we have two key objectives, which is to support the local response to the skills priorities set out within the LSIP. LSIP, sorry, and looking at what that actually means for Cornwall. So that will look at investment into new facilities and equipment, development and delivery of new courses, but importantly, and a real difficulty for us in the sector is to upskill teaching staff. So as Anne mentioned previously around the digital agenda, and ensuring that our tutors and lecturers are in front of where the market and the industry is going, to be able to provide the students with the skills that they need ready for the marketplace. But to be able to build the capacity of the FE sector to meet the local skills priorities set out in their respective LSIP areas as well. So the colleges and independent training providers working more in collaboration to be able to ensure that we deliver on this together. So there's two projects that we've been able to agree on name, and Project 1 is around engineering futures, so really focusing on the engineering, manufacturing and marine sector, and building futures, which is focused around the construction and retrofit side of things. So next slide on, please. With the key aims of increasing skills provision linked to the LSIP priorities, with a particular focus on levels 3 and 5, ideally accredited, but as I've mentioned before, reducing duplication. So what we found is by listening to the LSIP and speaking to employers over the years that we've been around, we've identified that there's a lot of individuals that have that entry level 1 and 2, but actually to move forwards and be progressive, whether that's within the skills or potential earnings, it would be really pushing those opportunities around level 3 and 5, and really thinking about our suite of qualifications, whether that be across apprenticeships or HE. And really looking at ensuring that we take a strong appraisal of those to ensure that they're relevant for the industry that exists within Cornwall. Supporting employer engagement and business innovation, I think across the providers in Cornwall, we've got a real robust platform to be able to engage with local employers. I think the key thing is about us looking at our expertise and looking at where our strengths lie, and being able to support one another in helping employers to be able to access the appropriate provider who may have a strong track record in delivering that provision. But as Anne said previously as well, a lot for our employers around accessibility and ensuring that we haven't got students or adult learners travelling 2.5, 3 hours to be able to access education. Driving up the quality, including staff CPD, knowledge exchange and college leadership and governance. So some of the initiatives are around tutors and lecturers across the providers meeting, standardising practice, being able to upskill, whether that's through CPD sessions or whether that's out in industry, actually taking that time out of the classroom to be able to ensure that their practical skills and their knowledge is absolutely 100% up to date, and we're definitely finding that as retrofit comes down the line. We talk about it as being very new here in Cornwall, but actually retrofit's been happening for many years, and it's important that we understand how retrofit has its place within Cornwall, but also how we're able to embrace some of the new systems and technologies that exist, and how we support our students and employees in being able to gain the necessary skills. Focus on collaboration, leading to improved coordination efficiencies, and that's something that we definitely learned, through the skills development fund and the business building sustainable futures, is about us working in collaboration, working collectively, and making those agreements and sticking to those agreements in terms of where we are at our best, and where we can actually provide that accessible support and learning, and also being able to ensure that we provide the right level of careers advice. So we spent together as colleges, especially around our labour market intelligence, and really helping using the labour market intelligence to really drive our strategic agendas, but also making sure that that fits in line with the LSIP as well. But ultimately, long-term sustainability and how these activities will be sustained beyond 2025, as we've just transitioned out of the period of European social funding. We now move into a new world of funding, and we need to look at how we can, as they said around the devolution deal and things like that, how we can make sure that all of the funds that are available, Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly attract, but we work collectively together to make sure value for money as well. Next slide, Anne, please. Slide just for those that enjoy looking at the funds side of things. Across the three partners, we were successful in securing 2.5 million. And that's split into both capital and revenue. So what we've been able to do is we've been able to have a look at how we're able to put that share across a range of different activities. Next slide, and if you don't mind, which will hopefully make sense. Is we've been able to agree between the educational institutions of the FE colleges that Truro and Penrith College will focus very much around the engineering futures, around leadership and management, quality improvement, and core business skills that were highlighted in the LSIP, and developing bespoke programs to address articulated challenges. So what we've been able to do is we've been able to take a lot of the learning within the LSIP, but also some of the previous projects that existed to try and identify where there's trends, but also reach out to those businesses to be able to understand, if there's any future requirements of missing skills, so that we can evolve a program that hopefully is accessible for all across the industry. We've been able to invest in a mechatronics facility enhancement at our new STEM and Health Skills Centre in Bodmin. So a new campus that's been built in Bodmin, specifically focused around the mechatronics, composites and health. And we found that since doing that, that's had quite an appeal to a lot of employers in the north of Cornwall. Actionable LSIP priorities to collate local offer and identify gaps. That's the LSIP has gave us an opportunity to be able to go to some of these hard to reach areas as well. Or small demographic, geographic towns within Cornwall, to be able to help them feel involved, as we've been able to make sure that the provision is one accessible, but secondly responds to their needs, and that they're not the small medium employers not missed as we progress through this plan. And we continue to make infrastructure enhancements for remote and hybrid training models. And what we found is, as the students are coming through, there's much more of a reliance and expectation for a blended delivery model, and to move away from the Victorian times of just classroom teaching. So that's given us a real challenge, but is being embraced by all. Our colleagues in the Cornwall College Group are very much focused around the marine and creation of a new facility at Falmouth Marine School to deliver sustainable energy, marine innovation and flow. and a workshop and equipment enhancements at the St Austell and Camborne College campus. So that, that hopefully ensures that there's that joint investment into providing students and employers with some of the very best facilities, but also equipment that is in front of the market. So hopefully in time our learners and students going through the programs are able to be well equipped with the right skills. Next slide, Anne. Please. Our colleagues in the Cornwall Marine Network have taken a slightly different approach, but quite an innovative approach, which I do like in the fact that a lot of their work will be done specifically with 3 employers. And working a project through that will work with Armada Hydraulics in creating a centre of excellence for hydraulics and pneumatics, Cockwell's boat building academy, and Penzance Dry Docks Marine Engineering Centre. So I think a really good range, especially for the the marine sector, demonstrating that investment, but also being able to meet that need. In terms of skills for that sector. But what we've found, as I've mentioned previously, is that there is some synergies across the project, where we will be looking at teaching staff CPD, looking to enhance industry placements for students, and as Anne said previously, it's about us working with these employers to be able to help them bring their opportunities to the table, so that we can ultimately ensure that throughout any qualification, a student is able to access a high quality placement that's locally and is accessible. We've got a range of different employee and stakeholder engagement activities to inform plans and progress, enhancements to marketing navigatability of skills offer. So I know Charlie, my colleague, and Lisa and the team are working on how we present that moving forwards, to avoid duplication and repetition, but also looking at how we collectively support one another with our careers and outreach activity resources, but underpinned by a focus on green skills and digital skills as well. So I think that's probably a whistle-stop tour of everything that collectively we're doing, and hope I've presented everybody in a good light there.
Well, I think you have, Tom, and I have to say this, it's incredible actually when you get under the skin of all of this, actually how much is going on and how much you were all doing actually to really enhance things. And I have to say, I think students have really got a the luck's on their side now. I mean, I wish I had all of this when I was a kid. It's really good, and I think it's definitely needed in Cornwall. These are definitely the things that have shown in our research as well. So it's good to see some real good collaborative stuff, and also very nice to have a bit of money to come and to spend to do that as well. So rather nice to have the LSIP, but I would say that we're also going to be looking obviously around at other sources of funding and so on as well, to see what else we can do to bring these actionable priorities together. So talking of things that are happening and exciting things, and something that's new and perhaps something that we'd like you to get behind, is Cornwall Opportunities. So I'm going to bring in Kathy now. Thanks for being patient, Kathy. And Kathy's going to do a little demo, a little walk around of this new fantastic website that we've got here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing my screen here now so that Kathy can get the website up, and can just demonstrate to you exactly what we're looking at and what they need you to do as well. Over to you, Kathy.
Lovely, thank you, Anne. Can you see the website? Is it come up?
Yes, perfect, thank you.
Brilliant, okay. Afternoon, everybody, and thank you, Anne, for inviting me today. So I actually work in Stacey Sleeman's team, in the Employment and Skills team in Cornwall Council. And some of you may recall, Cornwall had a bit of a big event a few years ago now with the G7 meeting. And we have, as a result of that, had some G7 legacy funding, which is funding a number of projects across Cornwall, for which Cornwall Council is looking after that fund. The first of them is Cornwall Opportunities, which I look after within the team. So whilst obviously very much an actionable priority as far as the LSIP is concerned, it was something that was already in place. So it's lovely that the timing is well timed from that point of view. But what is it? It's the first of its type locally, I believe. So it's a bit of a one-stop shop self-service portal for individuals locally to sort of access information around and raise awareness of local jobs, apprenticeship opportunities, skills opportunities like the boot camps or Multiply, for instance. Course information, as well as learn and be inspired about the employers and the industries that Cornwall has to offer, essentially. So what you're looking at there now is the landing page for the portal, and some of the key features with it, if we look at search opportunities, is the opportunity to search for live jobs. So individuals can put their keyword in, they can search the whole of Cornwall, or they can search within a postcode area as well. And what we've also done is we've brought in data for Plymouth. So if people are looking to sort of work across the border in Plymouth, which is going to be suitable for some people, then that sort of pulls through it as well. So that's the sort of search for jobs function there. Back on search for opportunities, there's also the opportunity to search for apprenticeships, and this information is fed from the Find an Apprenticeship Service website, so people will be able to pull that information through and again find apprenticeship opportunities for Cornwall, Isles of Scilly, and also Plymouth there as well. Then back on the search opportunities area of the website, individuals can search for courses. So I like to think of this website as starting to be a bit of a prospectus, if you like, for Cornwall, everything that Cornwall has to offer. As we all know, it's very difficult for residents, for employers, for young people, for adult job seekers to know everything that's available to them out there and to really maximise and benefit from those opportunities. So Cornwall Opportunities is about bringing that information to life for them. So that people can be more aware of what's available for them. So search for courses, that at the moment pulls through information from the Department for Education's or Education Skills Funding Agency funded courses. And I'll be in discussion with training providers to make sure that all their courses are on that directory so that we're pulling through that information for them as well. So that's sort of the search for opportunities element of it there. There's also within here as well a specific employer hub, which is very much there to help employers look at whether they're developing their own staff and the tools and programs that are available to do that. So it might be things like skills boot camps, apprenticeships, the new Multiply program that's sponsored, funded by the skills funding at the Shared Prosperity Fund, or it might be things like digital skills, looking at the government skills toolkit, and things like the midlife MOT program as well, which might be very useful for where employers have an aging workforce and need to look at sort of that planning for retirement, but also then how individuals can think themselves around opportunities that they might be able to continue in work in some form as well later on in their work life. We've also on here got a youth hub. And we've got some information here at the minute around sort of exploring choices for different age groups, whether that's sort of at 16 or 18, looking at where individuals can study when they're at 16, but also information for those with special educational needs and disabilities as well, with the post-16 SEND area. So that will be very useful for sort of parents and young people looking at what those opportunities are and what's available to them in that area. Again, we touch on things like apprenticeships and link in and explore Cornwall's industries. So that's what I'll take you now, actually. Let's go and have a look at the Cornwall's industries pages. So on here, this is a development from the 10 sector guides that Cornwall Council and the local enterprise published a while ago now. So we've brought these to life now digitally within these pages. So we've got 10 sort of sector guides here. And if we pick one, for instance, construction, let's go and have a look at that one. We've got a summary about the construction industry in the county, the sort of specialist skills that are in high demand in Cornwall. And then we've got some links through to further information here, some hints and tips, for example, the hidden job market, particularly with construction, there can be a lot of hidden jobs. So that's not sort of advertised through the usual channels. So, you know, people might need to use their networking skills, etc., to find those types of jobs. There's a bit of a hint around that. Different sort of support organisations and sources of information for people looking at construction, what the future for it might be. And then in here, it's quite neat because each industry area will link back through to those opportunities. So it will link back through to jobs. And also then we've got the ability to link through here as well at the bottom, and this in this sort of blue box, to look at construction, but look at all opportunities. So whether that's an apprenticeship, whether it's a course, a construction course you want to have a look at, the individuals sort of using the website can sort of search for all of that. So that's the sort of industry pages. Another feature for the website, if I go into the work and careers section, is the careers directory. So I know Tom talked about labour market information, and again, this is quite useful for that. If somebody's not quite sure what they might want to do, whether that's because they're returning to the job market, they want to try something new, or perhaps they're a young person who's not quite sure about what they want to do, this might help and inspire and give some people some sort of ideas of what they might like to do in the future. So if we click on engineering and maintenance, let's try the first one because that's the easiest. Let's go civil engineers. So it brings up a little bit of information, labour market information there about average salaries and average hours per week, what civil engineers do, the main job tasks that they undertake, the sort of qualifications that are necessary to work in civil engineering, and then the prospects. And again, it's pulling through job opportunities there related to that particular area, related apprenticeships, and quite neatly, and I haven't picked this one on purpose, but Cormac have actually got a civil engineering apprenticeship there available at the moment at level 6, and I know they've got one at level 4, so that's quite nice. And then there's a course there, and I'm not quite sure that's the right one that should be pulling through, but obviously it's civil has come through for its classical civilization. So there are a couple of things that need sorting on this, like any website would be. It's never 100% perfect. We've gone with a soft launch so far with this website, it's important to say, so it's not the completely finished product for it. It's continuing to be developed as we go on. As I say, I'm sort of looking after the project, looking after the website, happy to take ideas for further content to sort of include, or if you think there might be things that are missing, I'm very happy to look at that, although I've got plans in place to include further content and further features. For example, I'm very conscious at the moment that, and I'm wanting to develop a couple of pages where we have spotlights for key employers in the county, where those are key employers where they might have really established work experience programs, you know, very key recruitment needs, or they might have an apprenticeship program, for instance. They can talk about, you know, them as a business, what they can offer, and how people can get in touch with them and make the most of the opportunities that employer can offer them as an individual. And likewise, I want to also include an employer spotlight, a provider spotlight area as well, where training providers, and again, this comes back to the sort of local prospectus that I mentioned, whereby then local training providers, that might be our colleges, but also independent training providers as well, can have their own page and can sort of outline what they offer to both employers and individuals as well. And then going forward, I very much see the website as supporting a wide range of partners and stakeholders. So we've got a sort of work coaches working in the local job centres. We've got local advisors, you know, supporting people through various employability programs. We've also got local National Careers Service advisors, and I'm very much seeing that those organisations will be able to work with the website and support their work with individuals to showcase to them the opportunities that are available as we go through. And I think that's probably enough for me for a minute.
It's brilliant, Kathy. Thank you very much. I mean, the work that you've done on it already is incredible. And I think we can see that there is this much needed one-stop shop. Again, it was something that came out in our research. And I know this was already on the cards actually before the research came out, but it's really highlighted some of the things that are needed. Hopefully it helps to draw through some of the additional content that you've got there as well. You know, and I think if you've got everything in one place, it was one of the key things that employers came back to us and said, actually, that we need everything in one place, please. You know, we get lots of nice sort of Facebook posts and lots of messages and lots of nice things that tell us that the things that are going on, but we're kind of too busy to pick them all up, and we can't really sort of see it all in one place. And actually where you're aligning what a job is to the job to the jobs available, to the qualifications that people can get. I think it's a very sensible thing to have it all in one place, and I think it's something that we should all get behind. So
and it'll link into other services as well, like our local Cornwall Isles of Scilly People Hub, our Growth and Skills Hub, our Careers Hub. So it's trying to bring all those services together as well. So this will be sort of like the one-stop shop, the front door, if you like, to some of that sort of stuff as well, where people can self-service, but then also go off to get that localised, tailored support where they need it.
Fantastic. I think that's absolutely brilliant. And if people obviously want to contact you about it, I mean, they can probably contact you through the website, I would imagine, if they've got ideas and things. But you know, happy for you to bring anything to any of us involved. But Kathy's doing some sterling work, so thank you so much for that. I'm just going to continue just sharing my screen for the last few bits of the presentation, just to wind things up and just to sort of talk a little bit now about the roadmap and about where we're going forward in the future. So let me just take this screen forward. So our future plans, we've broken it down into short, medium and long-term actions, and you can actually see them. I'm going to really whiz through these, but these are written down actually in our in the actual LSIP document itself. But just to say that we've established a dedicated LSIP implementation task force, which actually is the Cornwall and Isles of Scilly local skills improvement plan leadership panel, nice snappy title, and we have compiled a huge number of people, all of these employers, FE, HE, providers, the LEP, people like Kathy and Stacey also on that board, and also people from the colleges. So we're pulling everybody together, and we're going to meet on a 6-weekly basis in order to make sure that we can keep the LSIP on track. We're going to create task and finish groups with specific assignments, and obviously there will be some natural task and finish groups that will already be sort of going off, and they'll be coming back to report to the steering group as we go forward. Collaborate as a group, so looking at targeted interventions and programs that address identified actionable priorities, and already the LSIP is doing that in fine style. Initiate robust marketing. I think that's really important as well. The marketing part of it is telling people about what we're doing, so that people are aware, so that they can actually get involved, and so they know what's going to be happening, so that everybody is actually, you know, looking at the same page and is working together, because we are doing this all for the benefit of Cornwall and for the people who live in it. Implementing pilot programs, testing initiatives, we're already doing that, but that is part of the short-term actions, and that's already started. And to establish the performance indicators and monitoring mechanisms to track progress of the LSIP, which of course is really important. As we said at the very beginning, no point in doing something unless you can measure its progress. Medium-term actions is to scale things up a bit, to start looking at initiatives to reach a broader audience. So once you've tested them, it's good to send it out to a wider audience. Hence probably the soft launch of the opportunities website, and look at that wider range of skills shortages and gaps. So actually see what else there is out there, what else has come out of the woodwork because of the LSIP. Strengthening those partnerships. You know, we talked about being able to provide placements. We talking about employers talking to the educational institutions to make sure that they are actually making sure that those communication lines are really open and better than they ever have been, so that everybody knows how to contact their local college or their local skills providers. Enhancing the collaboration with local authorities. We already have an excellent relationship with Cornwall Council. And we're very grateful for their support in what they're doing and all of the wonderful things that they're doing, not just with the LSIP, but there's an awful lot of good stuff that they're also doing. Investing in the development of collaborative marketing campaigns. So we're obviously talking to people like the LSIF group about how we do that. Continuously, this continuous evaluation. It's not just we get to March 2025 and think, oh crikey, have we actually achieved this? We need to keep doing it. We need to keep talking about it, and exploring the opportunities for regional and national funding. So yes, the LSIF is one part of it, but we've already said that Shared Prosperity Fund and other funds, you know, are available, and how we can sort of pull this all together to make sure that this is a holistic approach. Our long-term actions are basically about consolidation and addressing those skills shortages, and actually making sure that actually this is a successful intervention to make sure that these things actually are achieving what they're supposed to. Evaluating that impact and probably reassessing then and sort of saying, well, okay, we've only looked at a couple of big sectors in the county. What else can we look at? How else can we keep improving? Keeping those partnerships going, keeping those people talking. I mean, people move out of jobs and you've got different people doing different things, but actually what we want to do is to make sure that those organizations and those institutions and entities that are actually working together, that continues on, so it's a sustainable process. And we also want to obviously be able to publish regular reports and updates on what the LSIP is achieving, just so that everybody knows about it, and so that members of the public also know, who aren't necessarily involved in this, but they can perhaps be talking to their children, they can be talking about careers and talking more excitedly in a home environment about what else is going on in the skills environment as well. So you can be part of it. You can talk to us. You can visit our website, it's there. You can hold your phone up to the screen and pick it up on the QR code there if you'd like to. There will be online forums, there will be roundtables, there will be surveys, and there will be events. We would love you to come to all of those. Everything will be on that webpage. So if you miss any of our information that comes out, you can always think, oh, I'll just check back and see what's going on. 4 really important things, though, that I'd like you to take away and to remember, that there are 4 events coming up which we're going to be holding at Cornwall college premises, so that we're actually going to open the doors and enable you to come into those colleges to go and see exactly what's going on there, but also to get together with the training providers, with students, with employers, with employees. It's open to everybody, it's free to attend. There'll be from 10 o'clock until 1 o'clock on each occasion, and we'll be finishing with a networking buffet, and we're hoping to involve college students in catering the events as well, to give them a bit of experience. So please look out for those dates. They are on our website. Please book a place. Please put them in your diary now. They are very, very important. They are dotted about the county as much as we possibly can. As I say, there will be other events and forums for you to be able to join in as well. But those are really important ones, and we'd really love to see you there and be able to sit and have a good chat, and there'll be opportunities to workshop. There'll be opportunities for you to bring your queries, your issues, and also hopefully to see some of the great kit and some of the innovations that the LSIP is actually providing as well. So later on in the year, it's nothing nicer than being able to go and actually see a new piece of kit or a new building or something new that's been going on that is of interest. So please do go along, and particularly if you haven't gone into a college before, or if you haven't got in touch with them before, please do that. We really want to see you there. So thank you. Stay in touch. We really are very happy to hear from anybody. If you've got any questions or anything like that, please do email me. We'll leave this screen up just for a moment so that you can take a note of that or a screenshot of that. Obviously, as I say, this webinar is being recorded, so you can play it back. You can pause this bit if you like, if you want to get hold of any of those contact details, but do look out for all of the things that we're doing here. I'm just going to stop that sharing now just for a moment, which just leaves me to say thank you very, very much to Melanie for joining us, to Kathy for that wonderful demonstration of the website. You certainly know your way around it. Tom, thank you very much for letting us know all about the exciting things that are happening with LSIP, and we look forward to working with you all. And thank you to Ness, who's in the background there sorting out any technical issues, and as you can tell, she's done a great job because there weren't any. So thank you very much. Wishing you all a very good afternoon, and we hope to see you at our next event in March at Calywith College, which is a fantastic venue. So we look forward to seeing you there. Thank you very much.
Thanks.